بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of the 9th section of Al-Isharat wa al-Tanbihat. In the previous session, we talked about 3 levels of the first rank, and that was waqt, then tawakkul, and then istifaz. We studied the main text by Ibn Sina and the commentary by Khajan. Now we want to carry on with the second rank, and again it's different levels. The first is inqilab. He says, Ibn Sina says, إشارة ثم إنه لتبلغ به الرياضة مبلغا ينقلب له وقته سكينة فيصير المخطوف مألوفا والوميض شهابا بينا ويحصل له معارفة مستقرة كأنها صحبة مستمرة ويستمتع فيها ببهجته فإذا انقلب عنها انقلب حيران أسفا. Ibn Sina says, this Salik, this Arif in his journey, then Riyadha can take him to another rank, another level. لتبلغ به الرياضة مبلغا. It would take him to some point that waqt, which was a momentary situation, will be transformed into Sakina, which is something continuous, something which remains, a kind of tranquility which remains. So waqt was momentary, but this is more permanent. Of course, I'm not saying permanent in the sense that forever, but means more stable. And this is why it is inqilab, means transformed. So those things that we said come like attractions, like flashes, which we said you can say attraction, or you can say like robbing a stalab. They become something which now this person is used to it. فيصير المخطوف, مخطوف from خطف, means salb, to take away. So what was like a flash, like a kind of jazba or khalsa, becomes ma'loof, means something that he's used to it. والوميض شهابا بينا. What was like fire or a kind of light around the clouds, something, just very much small and, little, not very wide, not very spread, then becomes shahaban bayyana, becomes like a shining star which is very clear, very obvious, very manifest. وتحصل له or يحصل له معارفة مستقرة. Because معارفة is مؤنث مجازي, so you can say يحصل or تحصل, especially when there is something in between, like له. Then a kind of acquaintance happens for him, which is مستقرة. It has قرار, means it's continuing, as if it is an ongoing صحبة, an ongoing companionship, and he enjoys فيها, in this معارفة or this صحبة, this companionship, ببهجته, from the joy that he gets. He's very happy, very joyful. فإذا انقلب عنها, and if this condition is changed, he would turn away from this condition while he is حيران. He is very perplexed and he is very sorrowful. Although it's written here خسران, but the better version is حيران. انقلب حيران آسفا, because خسران is not صفة مشبه, and here we need something, it is either اسم فاعل or صفة مشبه, like آسف. So حيران means متحير, آسف means remorseful, sorrowful. So as long as he has this condition, he is very good. It's not that, you know, he is shocked, he is provoked, he is someone that other people would see he is not comfortable. No, he is very much used to this, and he has Skeena, he has tranquility. If he loses this, then he would be very sorry and very sad. Now let's see what Khaja rahmatullah alayhi says. So he says, أقول وفي بعض النسخ بدل قوله ينقلب له وقته سكينة ينقلب له وفده سكينة. Instead of وقت, in some versions it is وفد. وفد comes from وفده. وفد يفد وفودان means to arrive. وفدت على الكريم بغير زاد من الحسنات وقلب سليم. Amir al-Mu'minin wrote this on the grave of Salman al-Farsi, that وفدت على الكريم means I have arrived to Allah who is Kareem without any righteous deed and without qalb salim. Why? إذ أقبح شيء حمل الزاد على الكريم. Because when I am visiting a Kareem, I should not take my provision with me. Imagine if someone invites me to his home and I take my lunch with him, with me. That person, if he's a generous person, he would be unhappy. I have invited you for a meal. I want to give you food. Why you bring your own food? Of course, sometimes people are very close to each other. It's not a matter of, guest and, host. It's a matter of friends. Sometimes, we are so close to each other, we can take our food with each other, or you make something, I make something, we eat together. But if a generous person invites you as a guest, it's very bad, and sometimes it's actually offensive to take your food with you. So we have to be very careful. Now, this has been used in a nice way for saying that when we go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is not too bad that we don't take any provision with us, because we are visiting and arriving the person who is very kareem, very generous. Of course, this is said for someone who has really worked hard and has tried to do something good, like Salman. But saying on behalf of Salman that I am empty-handed, and then bringing an excuse. So not that you really don't do anything and you say, I am visiting Kareem. If you know that Allah is Kareem, then you should try to, of course, be a guest that can visit Kareem, not that a guest that disobeys Kareem. Okay, you don't want to take Zad, at least don't disobey it. Don't pollute yourself and go to the Kareem. So, wafadtu ala al-Kareem. Or 1 year that many delegations in Medina used to visit the Prophet is called Amul Wufud, the year of delegations. So, wafada fulanun ala al-Amir idha warada rasulan ila. If someone as a messenger comes, or a group, a delegation come, they say wafada. فهو وافد, then that person is wafid. Wal jami'u wafd, if it is a group, a delegation, it's called wafd. For example, in Arabic now also, if you read news, sometimes they say wafdun rafi'ul mustawa, a high rank delegation, for example, from this country visited that country, or wafdun tabbiyun, a medical delegation, for example. So this is in some versions, but it doesn't make that much sense. ينقلب له وفده سكينة. It's difficult to justify it, to say that this condition is like a delegation or a group that come, or a person that comes to visit. وقت is better. ينقلب له وقته سكينة. And then Khadir Rahmatullah alayh says, وَالرِّوَايَةُ الْأُولَى أَظْهَرُ. The first version is better, is more appropriate. Then we had al-Makhtuf. Makhtuf is from khatf. Khatf means istilab, to take away. Then we said al-Wamid. Wamid we had before. We said al-Wamidu becomes shahaban bayna. What is shahab? Shu'latu narin sata. Shahab can be shahaban thaqib, can be a star, can be a blaze of fire which has lots of light. Anyway, something which has obvious light, something that you cannot miss or cannot hide. Very obvious, wadahan. In some versions, instead of shahaban bayyana, there is shahaban thabita, ay thabita. Means something which is not finishing soon. But bayyanan is better. وَيَحْصُلُ لَهُ مُعَارَفَةٌ مُستقرة. We said a companionship or acquaintance which is has istiqrar, which is continuing, it's ongoing, it's not finishing soon, happens to him. We mean companionship ma'al haqqil abbal, means a kind of companionship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He becomes a friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he feels the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We said then if this condition changes, he becomes hayrana asifan or asifan. Asif means sorrowful, remorseful. Ay mutalahifan means he becomes very sad for this change. والمعنى ظاهر. So after explaining just few words, Khaja says there is no need for commentary. It's clear that that condition can become something that he is used to it, and he is no longer affected to the extent that people around can see that he is, in a strange situation or in a different situation. Then Ibn Sina continues, وَلَعَلَّهُ إِلَى هَذَا الْحَدِّ يَظْهَرُ عَلَيْهِ مَا بِهِ. Although he is now more used to it and he has an ongoing situation, maybe still up to this point the condition that he has would appear. Maybe still he is more comfortable, he's more used to it, he is more relaxed, but still people may realize that this person, for example, like a person who gives lectures, for example, and he's giving good lecture, his attention, everything is okay, but sometimes you feel he's more spiritual or he's very deeply moved, something like this, although there is nothing that indicates that he's overwhelmed. He's not overwhelmed, but he is affected. This can continue. Now we go to the second degree of this second rank. So after انقلاب, then we have now تغلغل. فإذا تغلغل في هذه المعارفة. If in this acquaintance and companionship, if he goes further. تغلغل الماء, Khaja explains soon, that when water goes inside the tree absorbs water with its roots, and then this water goes inside, they say تغلغل الماء في الشجر, means تخلل, went inside the tree. So فإذا تغلغل في هذه المعارفة means when the mystic Arif is more into this condition, then قل ظهوره عليه, then its appearance on him becomes less. فكان وهو غائب حاضرا. At the same time that he is somewhere else. His ghaibun means only his body is with us. His mind is somewhere else. His heart is somewhere else. But he is able to act as if he is present. فَكَانَ وَهُوَ غَائِبٌ حَاضِرًا. At the same time that he is absent, he is present. وَهُوَ ضَاعِنٌ مُقِيمًا. ضَاعٍ means صائر. At the same time that he is traveling, he is stationed. Khaja says أقول تغلغل الماء في الشجر أي تخللها. When water goes inside the tree, they say تغلغل. ضعن أي صار. ضاعن يعني صائر, someone who makes a journey, moves. But what is the whole meaning? والمعنى أنه قبل هذا المقام كان بحيث يظهر عليه أثر الابتهاج عند الذهاب والأسف حالة الانقلاب. بحمدك يا إلهي بدأت قولي وجئتك خاضعا. Before this condition, it was يظهر. it was appearing on him the sign of ibtihaj, of joy, bahja, in the dhahab, when the worry was going, he was happier, he was more comfortable. Or for example, when he was changing, he was more asif, more sorrowful. Now this appearance of moods or changes of the conditions are less. فصار في هذا المقام بحيث يقل ظهور ذلك عليه. Then these things become less visible, less apparent, less clear on him, to the extent that people may think he is here like other people. We are few people sitting and he's talking with us. We think he is like us, but he is somewhere else. فَيَرَاهُ جَلِيسُهُ حَالَةَ الْاِتِّصَالِ بِجَنَابِ الْجَلَالِ حَاضِرًا عِنْدَهُ. Someone who is sitting next to this person at the time that he is connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this person thinks that he is here. He doesn't understand that he is connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His soul is somewhere else. مُقِيمًا مَعَهُ. He thinks that he is staying there with him. وَهُوَ بِالْحَقِيقَةِ غَائِبٌ عَنْهُ. But the reality is that he is not with this jalis. ضَاعِنٌ إِلَىٰ غَيْرِهِ. Has gone somewhere else, has traveled somewhere else, to someone else, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the way they do it is so nice that they still can do justice to the people who are around. Sometimes maybe not, but sometimes yes. Ayatollah Hasanzadeh has something interesting that I wanted to share with you. He says, I had some experience with the brother of Allama Tabatabai. I read for you exactly what Ayatollah Hasanzadeh says. He says, بنده در معاشرت هایی که با جناب آقای سید محمد حسن الهی داشتم. Allama was Sayyid Muhammad Hussein, his brother was Sayyid Muhammad Hassan, known as الهی. چنین موردی پیش آمد که ایشان بعداً عذر خواهی کرد و فرمود متوجه نبودم. So sometimes happened, or at least once happened, that he was sitting with me, but he was somewhere else. And then he apologized. Perhaps he didn't answer or he didn't talk, because he was not, paying attention to it. ایشان خیلی هم در مراقبت قوی بود. He was very strong in مراقبه. خدا رحمتش فرماید. May Allah have mercy upon him. به هر حال پیش می آید که می بینی متوجه طرف نیست و آن سوئی می شود. It can happen that that person, you realize that is not paying attention to this part, to this world, and ansui mi shavad means he is paying attention to the other side, to malakut. But this is one condition. Another condition is that they can go even further, or they can have times that they are connected and you don't see any difference. This is stronger, that they are connected and you think no, they are not. Like for example, when Prophet or Imams alayhimus salam were talking to the people, they had full attention to them, but at the same time they were connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or when Amir al-Mu'minin in Salat gave a ring, so he was full connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but this person who was in need, they thought Amir al-Mu'minin is paying attention to him. He didn't know that his attention is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and through Allah to him. He thought, no, he's like other people paying attention to him. In any case, this is something that can happen, and هو بالحقيقة غائب عنه ضاعن إلى غيره. Ayatollah Hassan Zadeh Amuli has a good discussion also here, that of course it should be discussed in some other places, but I thought at least I mention what he quotes here from Farabi, and he says before Ibn Arabi, Farabi has this point. You know, Farabi is a great Muslim philosopher and also a teacher of different sciences, and this is why they call him Al-Muallim al-Thani. Al-Muallim al-Awwal is Aristotle, Al-Muallim al-Thani is Farabi. And ulama say Muallim here doesn't mean just teacher, means someone who was expert in all the sciences of his own time, all the disciplines. Logic, philosophy, theology, mathematics, even music, because music is also part of, you know, hikmah. All these sciences which were part of hikmah, hikmat amali or hikmat nadari, all of them, politics, all, akhlaq, he was a great scholar of all this. So he's known as Muallim al-Thani. Anyway, Farabi before Ibn Arabi has said this point. The point is this, and I am citing from commentary of Ayatollah Hassan Zadeh Amuli. الروح القدسية لا تشغلها جهة تحته عن جهة فوقه. الروح القدسية means the soul, the spirit, which has become Qudsi, which has become pure and holy, would not be preoccupied by something which is lower, so that he would not pay attention to something which is above. Shaghala means to make something busy so that it would not pay attention to another thing. Mashghul means busy, engaged. So these holy, these purified spirits, when they are dealing with something from dunya, they would not be preoccupied so that they neglect what is above. This is the power and capacity of these souls. They are connected to the above, and even engagement with worldly things would not make them neglect that. But if you have not reached that point, as soon as you pay attention to something here, you would forget something above. And then Ayatollah Hassan Zadeh Amuli says that Ibn Arabi also in Fusus has mentioned this, and he says that Ruh Qudsi is somehow manifesting this quality of Allah, that la yashghalhu sha'nun an sha'an. In the same way that when Allah deals with something, he would not become preoccupied and forget or neglect other things. These purified spirits also manifest this quality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course according to their own level. So if few people, not even one person, even few people, for example, need attention, they can pay attention to them, or they can pay attention, for example, to someone who is talking, and at the same time, for example, they can write, but their mind can be also with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's go now to the text. After this, again, it continues, it goes even further, and we reach the level of a higher stage. He says, وَلَعَلَّهُ إِلَى هَذَا الْحَدِّ إِنَّمَا تَتَيَسَّرُ لَهُ هَذِهِ الْمُعَارَفَةِ أَحْيَانًا. Up to this stage, maybe this acquaintance happens for him occasionally, أحيانا, occasionally, at times. But ثم يتدرج, this continues إلى أن يكون له متى شاء, to the extent that it happens whenever he wants. This is very important. This is getting close to the level of Mashiach, that whenever he wants to get connected, he would get connected. As soon as he switches to Salat, he's connected. It's not that, for example, sometime or half the time or most of the time. No. As soon as he wants, he gets connected. ثم يتدرج له إلى أن يكون له متى شاء, whenever he wants. في بعض النسخ أنما يتسنى له. In some versions it says يتسنى. يتسنى أي ينفتح ويتسهل عليه, means it becomes open and easy for him. So either it becomes possible or it becomes easy. It doesn't make that much difference. What is important is that he can have, whenever he wants, this kind of acquaintance or معارفة. ثم إنه ليتوقف هذه الرتبة فلا يتوقف أمره إلى مشيئته، بل كلما لاحظ شيئا لاحظ غيره. It can continue to the extent that even he doesn't need to decide. So we said it can grow gradually and reach the point of Mashiach, that whenever he wants, he gets it. But still he has to decide. He has to want. This still has two problems. One is that maybe sometimes he forgets to want. Do you know what I mean? If you ask, you will have it, but maybe you forget to want. It's much better than us, because sometimes we want and still we don't have it. Someone who is in the level of Mashiach, when they want, they get it. But maybe he forgets to ask. Maybe, he doesn't ask. Another thing is that if he wants, he gets it, it seems that it's not yet part of his nature. Still, it's a change. Still, there is a separation. We don't need to, for example, to decide to be human being. We are human being always. In one level, of course. I'm not talking about إنسان كامل, but at least in some level we are always human beings. We don't need to decide to be human beings. We don't need to decide to breathe, for example. So level of mashiyah is very good, but he says إنه لا يتقدم هذا. He goes further. He makes progress and goes beyond this rutbah. فلا يتوقف أمره إلى مشيئة. So it doesn't need, his affair doesn't depend on his mashiyah. بل كلما لاحظ شيئا لاحظ غيره وإن لم تكن ملاحظته لاعتبار. Whenever he looks at something or considers something or is faced with something or is, I don't know, coming across something, at the same time he is thinking of another thing. He's thinking of, for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-haqqul awwal. He doesn't even need to think, let me remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let me connect to him. وَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ مُلَاحَظَتُهُ لِاعْتِبَارٍ. It's not that he looked at that thing in order to remember Allah. So he is even above the level of trying to remember, which is of course a high level by itself, that I look at things and then I remember Allah. I look at ayat in order to remember Allah. This person doesn't need to even have this kind of consideration. فَيَسْنَحُ لَهُ تَعْرِيجٌ عَنْ عَالَمِ الزُّورِ إِلَى عَالَمِ الْحَقِّ. Ta'rij comes from uruj. Uruj, and we have mi'raj, ma'arij. Uruj means to ascend, to rise. So this person would ascend from the universe of zur. Zur means batil, falsehood. إلى عالم الحق, to the world of truth. So it becomes yasnahu, it becomes possible for him to raise himself or his soul, to ascend. Of course, ta'rij is bab taf'il, so it's muta'addi, but you can say to rise or to raise himself from the universe of falsehood to the universe of the truth. And this is mustaqarrun bih. This ta'rij is always with him. وَيَحْتَفُّ حَوْلَهُ الْغَافِلُ. But around him, he is surrounded by ghafilun, by people who are heedless. Khaja says, عَرَجَ عُرُوجًا أي ارتقى, means to rise. عرج عليه تعريجا أي أقام وعرج إليه, means to raise and to rise towards something. إن عرج أي مال, when you are bending or turning towards something, say إن عرج. إن عطف, the same, means to deviate, to turn away, to turn towards something. So here arraja is a matter of just rising. Sometimes bab taf'il is for ta'adiyah, which is most of the time, and then you have to say to raise, or sometimes it was just ta'kid. For example, غلقت الأبواب means very much closed the doors, for example. Or قتل. قتل قتل is متعدي, to kill. قتل again means to kill, but maybe when they kill, you know, very much or many people, for تأكيد we say قتل. So تعريج هنا ها هنا إما مبالغة في الارتقاء, either it means that he rises a lot, or means, for example, to turn away, to go away, بمعنى الميل والانعطاف, means going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, turning towards him, or as I said, to raise his soul. You can say raise his soul. We can add this as well. And then we have يحتف حوله الغافلون. حف or محفوف, you know, we have الجنة حفت بالمكاره. If you want to go to heaven, there are some difficulties that you have to go through. النار حفت بالشهوات. To begin with, the road for hell is very pleasing and easy. You just, you know, enjoy yourself, you indulge yourself. For going to heaven is difficult, you have to do it. But later it becomes opposite. Later, if you are patient, then the road towards heaven is very nice and comfortable and pleasing. The road towards hell becomes very, very painful and depressing and disappointing and frustrating. But to begin with, it's like this. So حف بالشهوات بالمكاره, from the same root. حف and احتف حوله means باب افتعال, means to get around something. أي أطاف به واستدار حوله, means غافلون are around him. They are around him. Like when something is in the center and there's a circle around him. والمعنى ظاهر. The meaning is clear. Doesn't need that much explanation. So what Ibn Sina said is that this can reach the level that first there is انقلاب, then there is تغلغل, then there is mashia, and then he can even go after that, beyond that. I think for today is enough. Inshallah, next week we have something very, very important, and that is when his own sir becomes mir'atan lil haq, a mirror for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, we will discuss this next week bi'iznillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I also would like to mention something that Ayatollah Hassanzadeh said. It's in Farsi, but it's interesting if you want to take note. He says he was studying إشارات with Ayatollah Allama Sha'rani. Actually, I myself studied this part of إشارات with few namat with Ayatollah Hassanzadeh Amuli. But he has taught this in different, years. So I don't know in which year, he has said this, but there is a book on his commentary. So one of, maybe his courses, they transcribed and, organized. Over there, he says that when Allama Sha'rani reached this point, وَهُوَ غَائِبٌ حَاضِرًا وَهُوَ ضَاعِنٌ مُقِيمًا, he read this poem of Sa'di, which is in Farsi. هرگز وجود حاضر و غائب شنیده ای. Have you ever heard a being which is present and absent? من در میان جمع و دلم جای دیگر است. I am in the middle of this group, but my heart is somewhere else. Of course, in the mystical way, because many people, sometimes when we are talking to them, they're like teachers many times find this, that students are sitting, but their attention is somewhere else. No, this is not what we mean. It means something higher. Not that, he's thinking about his, games or, for example, his, home, etc. No, means in the sense that he is connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as we said, the beauty is that it can reach the point that you would not understand, because he answers to you. If you ask him something, he, like any other person, deals with you with attention and does justice to alam kathrat. But he is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes I use this example, like a person that is driving, and when he is really experienced and used to driving, he can talk to someone sitting next to him and still drive. If you are not used to it, you cannot do it together. Either you have to drive or you have to talk to someone. But when you get used to it, somehow your mind manages to keep percentage of attention for driving and percentage of attention for talking, and maybe at the same time you are also thinking that I want to reach somewhere, and I have to give lecture, and so the mind has ability to learn how to divide attention. But for the Arif is even higher than that, because he doesn't need to divide the attention and say, okay, I give 50% to Allah and 50% to people who are around me. He can give 100% to Allah, and through that give also 100% attention to the people who are around. This is amazing. So he can give full attention to the people who are around. Really listen to them, really show love to them, care to them, and at the same time being connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, this is partly also because of the quality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah is the one, in him everything can be met. He is so comprehensive that in him we can meet other people. It's not that you can do this, for example, with an object or a human being. Yes, awliyaullah maybe also, if they reach the level of fana, maybe they can also have this quality that you can be paying attention to them and then to other people. At least Hujjah of Allah, maybe yes. Okay, I just wanted to share this point at the end.
يصير